Boxing truth here. Deontay Wilder's protected bullshit reign as WBC heavyweight champion will soon be coming to an end. But we're going to have to wait a little longer for Wilder to finally fight a real opponent, a worthy contender, or him possibly in a unification fight. He's already been ordered by the sanctioning body title that he holds, WBC, to begin negotiations for a rematch with Stavern, who is the mandatory for his belt, questionably the mandatory for his belt. Stavern shouldn't be rated by WBC, hasn't beaten a rated opponent for years. He's been inactive, only fought once since Wilder whooped him, but it is what it is. Wilder's finally going to fulfill a mandatory obligation. I expect Wilder and his team to proceed with negotiations for the rematch. They could delay if they want, but what's the alternative option here? Why sit on the shelf and wait for a unification fight with Parker when Parker still has business to attend to in the mandatory defense of his strap, the WBO, as Parker's got in his first defense has to fight his mandatory, while Wilder's pathetic reign consists of five voluntary defensives and hand-picked opponents for his reign. So Wilder potentially will have to wait 6 months to fight Parker, as Parker's fight with Hughie Fury is not until May. And the earliest he could be ready for a potential Wilder unification will possibly be the late summer or early fall. So why is Wilder and his handlers going to just wait for a result that's not guaranteed? There's no guarantees that Parker will beat Hughie Fury. Parker is a very flawed fighter who's very beatable. He possesses more skills than Wilder, possesses power and combination punches, but he has stamina issues, defensive flaws, and he didn't look particularly good in his last fight against Andy Ruiz. Very close drawish type fight with Ruiz. I felt Ruiz landed the better punches, but he was so inactive in his work rate and activity, and it was not an easy fight to score. It could have been a draw. Very difficult fight to score, and you can see why Parker got the decision, him being in his hometown for that fight. So Wilder and his handlers most likely will pursue the mandatory rematch with Stavern. He possesses no threat. It has to be careful matchmaking when it comes to Wilder. His handlers have to put him in fights that they're very confident of him winning, because he's a very limited guy. He's trash. He's garbage. He's got no technique. He's got no skill. Another piss-poor performance in his latest outing this past Saturday in his hometown for another hand-picked bum, as the voluntary defenses of his reign continue to stack up. And he fought another unworthy contender within the WBC. Washington ain't much, but he was actually winning the fight with Wilder. Wilder was actually getting outboxed by some novice-level fighter, a football player at that, a former football player in Joe Washington. Wilder just looked terrible. I mean, wasn't throwing many punches, wasn't jabbing. He was finally fighting an opponent that was around the same height and size as he was, and you saw the struggles in the first 3 rounds of the fight. He was getting popped with the jab, and Wilder wasn't doing shit in return. Barely threw punches, barely was landing any punches, and wasn't throwing his jab at all. And it's not even that exciting watching Wilder fight. I mean, he's got no technique, he's got no skill, he's not fluid, he doesn't have any punch variation. He has a good straight right hand, he has a decent jab, but it's not an educated jab. No variation to it, it's very limited. And he wasn't effective with the jab this past Saturday night against Washington. And he just threw a right hand and it landed. And the referee was very quick to put a stoppage to it. I didn't like the stoppage. I'm not going to argue that Washington wasn't hurt, but the stoppage seemed to be on cue. Like, the referee was on cue to stop the fight as soon as the A side of the event, which is Wilder, put some damage together against Washington, and that's what he did. And he got the stoppage. Another in-house fight for Wilder. and another so-so performance against a handpicked opponent. I mean, it's got to be concerning for Wilder's handlers when he's struggling to fight. He's struggling against these handpicked bums that he's fighting. These are supposed to be showcase fights that he's supposed to not be struggling or losing rounds against. But he's been struggling. He struggled against Duhaupas. He struggled against Eric Molina. These are not world beaters. These are not the highest rated contenders available within the WBC. And Wilder's reign, protected sham reign, will soon be coming to an end once he finally fights that proper opponent. Wilder will always have a puncher's chance in the fight. He's got power. There's no doubt about that. But everything else is trash. He's susceptible to counters. His technique is terrible. His defense ain't great. He doesn't do well against opponents his own size, even against novice level ones who are not at that level. And Gerald Washington, he was big and strong, but he doesn't have that punching power developed yet because he's only been boxing for a handful of years. It takes a while to get your punch delivery and technique on point to where you can deliver the maximum power. In the case of Gerald Washington, just needs more seasoning and more technique to develop that punching power. And you can see in the fight with Wilder, he don't got no punching power. And that's the thing. Wilder's been matched very carefully. It's a big project throughout his whole career. It's insulting to fans like myself who know what it's all about. Just to keep Wilder protected, fight the least risky possible opponents, make a little money for his handlers, and then finally put him in that cash out fight where most likely he will get chinned and flattened. But I'm tired of watching Wilder's phony reign, not fighting the best opponents out there, not even as a belt holder for WBC. And he's not improving because he's not fighting any risks. He's not fighting the opponents out there that can improve his game. He's not developing. And he looked very bad against Gerald Washington this past Saturday night. And Wilder, he's been matched carefully. Hasn't really fought many powerful heavyweights. Hasn't really fought the biggest punchers in the heavyweight division. He fought one solid heavyweight in Stavern, and he couldn't knock him out. So, a lot of concern for Wilder's handlers in terms of Wilder's performances in these showcase fights. He's not really wowing the crowd. He's not really doing much. He's struggling. He's not really putting in any good performances. I mean, what was Wilder's good performance in his career? I guess Stavern, but he couldn't knock him out. So, we're going to have to wait a little longer for Wilder's sham reign is put to an end. Someone needs to drop this chump. Protected fraud. Was making a mockery of the heavyweight division. He's not a champion. He hasn't fought anybody. Has almost 40 fights, or he has 40 fights. And he continues to fight the selection of the opponents that he's fighting. Getting criticized by prospects like Anthony Joshua because Joshua's already taken that step up and he only has 18 fights in his journey. So what does that tell you? Wilder, you're going to have to step up sooner or later. Most fans know you're a fraud. You have power, so you always have a puncher's chance in fights. You'll have a good chance to beat Joseph Parker because he's so flawed, but he has the power to put your lights out as well. You may have the equalizer and the power, but once you start fighting the real opponents in the heavyweight division, they'll also have that equalizer against you. Because once they touch you in that weak-ass chin of yours, it's going to be night-night. It's a big gamble to put you in with a real heavyweight because you're so trash technically and skill-wise. So, your handler's most likely going to take that rematch. Stavern poses no threat. Maybe you'll get the unification with Parker if he defeats Fury. And then the fight with Joshua, if all goes according to plan, if he beats Klitschko, will happen in 2018. And I cannot wait until your protected sham reign as WBC heavyweight champion finally comes to an end. This is Boxing Truth. I'm out.